Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kelsey and let's get to some 2026 releases. As you are aware, one of my goals this year is to really tackle my backlist books. I have a lot of goals in place to do so. I have some clearing my shelves videos that I want to film. I am on a book buying ban that I am struggling with, but honestly doing pretty well. But what's going in the wasteland? Well, the books that I'm actually buying, which are pre-orders, which are 2026 releases. So I was like, well, I need to include some of them in vlogs for sure throughout the year, but also maybe we can have some vlogs where I'm solely reading these releases that I'm quite frankly excited for. So in this video, you will see me read Sweet Bitter Song by Rosie Hewlett. This is an Odyssey retelling of sorts, but following Penelope. Half His Age by Jeanette McCurdy. This is an anticipated fiction release from the actress best known for iCarly, and it follows a young girl in an inappropriate relationship with her high school English teacher. And then the last book I read for this vlog was The Ending Writes Itself by Evelyn Clark. This is a writing duo between Kat Clark and B.E. Schwab that follows a group of authors who are sent to this isolated island by an author that they all admire. Upon getting there, they learn that he has passed and they must write the ending to his final novel. So I will take you back to Kelsey 1 week ago when we started with Sweet Bitter Song, and we'll come back at the end. Hello, welcome to a new vlog. It is absolutely pouring outside, so I'm a little distracted because every time it rains, I get really nervous that we're going to lose power. And now that I have a child, it like adds extra anxiety because I'm like, he doesn't understand. He can't understand what I'm trying to tell him, that the reason that there's no electricity is because of the rain. He doesn't get it. So I'm a little bit nervous, but we're pushing through. I have to go pick him up in roughly half an hour because he has his 18-month appointment. Clearly, I'm very much struggling with the fact that he's 18 months. And so they're just going to give him his vaccines and then we're going to go over like his development and see if he's developing correctly. I'm really nervous for it. I don't know how I'm going to deal with my kid having report cards. Like he's just being a normal baby right now and I'm like, what if he doesn't pass? How am I going to be when it comes to his schooling? I don't know. I don't want to be that type of mom. We'll see. But you're not here for the development of my child. You are here for books. And I have started a 2026 release of Sweet Bitter Song by Rosie Hewlett. I bought this book on the recommendation from my friend Ness. Ness used to have a channel, so come back. They recommended this to me because it is sapphic and they thought that I would really enjoy it. So obviously, I pre-ordered it. They were reading an ARC copy. This is about two main characters. One summer night within the palace of Sparta, a young slave girl stumbles across a gray-eyed princess. Despite living worlds apart, Melantho and Penelope are instantly drawn to each other and a powerful friendship blossoms. So what we are doing in this book is following the relationship of Melantho and Penelope as they move into their adulthood. So a lot of things have been happening. There's obviously like them realizing the class difference between them and Penelope constantly using her class to try to help Melantho, and Melantho being like, why I'm a person, like stop trying to control me, help me, own me. Penelope in this book is actually the wife of Odysseus, and you may remember Odysseus from the Odyssey. And so because Odysseus is the main character of the Odyssey, we know that he disappears for quite a bit of time. I'm very excited. I'm very excited. The term sapphic obviously comes from Sappho, who was a Greek poet, philosopher. So I'm very excited to see how these things are blended, especially Greek mythology, into this book. As for the writing, I am enjoying it. I think Rosie Hewlett has very palatable writing, which is really helping with like a Greek tragedy sort of vibe. I think sometimes with over prosy type of writing, it can really bog down on the messaging behind the book. So I think sometimes for these like epic sort of tales, a more simplified and palatable writing works better for me. So I am enjoying it so far. We are currently only at the part where Penelope forces Melantho to come with her to Ithaca because she has married Odysseus and she is now the princess of Ithaca. So we'll see how this story develops. They are not on good terms right now because Penelope is essentially treating Melantho like her own toy, her own plaything, and Penelope is not trying to be that way. She's doing it for the good of Melantho, but Melantho's like, I can make my own decisions, even though she's obviously a slave and would benefit from Penelope's appreciation. But at the same time, it has only furthered Melantho's like mistreatment by those in power aside from Penelope. I'm going to continue listening to that. Like I said, I do have to leave in half an hour. It is pouring outside and I'm a little scared, but we're going to make through. I think I'm going to continue listening to Sweet Bitter Song before I leave. And then once we have the doctor's appointment, I'm going to come home and cook. I think actually what I might do now too is put the teriyaki sauce onto the chicken so that it sort of marinates a little bit before I cook. That could be interesting. Okay, see you later. Hello, so I just came back from spend maybe like an hour ago, took a shower. I listened to the next third of Sweet Bitter Song. So I have about a third of the book left. I'm still really enjoying it, honestly. Usually I really like historical fiction when there's like an epic sort of plot point, and in this one it's definitely the slow burn romance between Melantho and Penelope. Within this last third, we really skyrocketed in the development of both their friendship and the more romantic leaning aspects of their relationship. So Odysseus, much like with the myth itself, goes off to Troy in order to fight for Helen of Troy's honor. He is essentially gone for 10 years after leaving Penelope and their newborn son. We jumped 10 years into the future and we see Penelope and Odysseus' son grow, how Melantho has a very big hand in raising him, and we really see the dynamics between Penelope and Melantho be sort of heightened as they are entering their more adulthood. Melantho is obviously getting attention from men who want to court her and whatnot. Penelope is very aloof and like, yeah, whatever, you can go marry them. Like, I don't care. But obviously, she does really care in this last chapter, which was chapter 40. My silence is all I'll say. So I'm very excited to see this last third because obviously, I mean, I don't recall Penelope having a cheating plot point in the Odyssey. Maybe I read it incorrectly, but Odysseus coming back could put like a wrench in things. So I would be really, really interested to see how their relationship is going to further develop because we only have a third left of the novel. So it took 2/3 for them to really admit their growing feelings for one another over the course of their lives. I'd say give or take right now they're in their 20s. We don't have that much left of the book and I don't actually recall what happens to Penelope. I'm sure it will be tragic given this is a retelling of a Greek tragedy. I am enjoying it. I think it is a great recommendation from my friend. As for what we are going to be doing physically in my life. So this weekend is Father's Day weekend. I am with a father. We're probably going to go for smoked meat. Smoked meat is my partner's favorite food. I don't know if smoked meat exists outside of Canada. I know brisket is like a smoked meat variant, but I don't know if it's like a Montreal specific thing. I don't know. I don't know anything. I'm very ignorant about the smoked meat community. So we're going to go eat some smoked meat. And then I don't know if later we're going to our friend's place. The world is our oyster for today. Tomorrow, obviously, spending time with my father. Hopefully tomorrow I want to have this finished and the next book started so that we can talk about it, just because I always feel like I'm just trying to catch up on videos. I did post my heated rivalry video. It was probably a video that took quite a bit of time because there were 6 books. Hopefully you guys love it and enjoy it. I don't know, but okay, I'll see you later. Hello. So we have quite a bit to update. Well, not that much, but I did in fact finish Sweet Bitter Song by Rosie Hewlett last night. And I feel like I definitely needed an emotional vacation after finishing this, especially given the next book that I'm going into. So I definitely needed a break. I didn't start the next book until this morning just because this book I feel like demanded so much of like my emotional tolls. I'm wondering if perhaps this is why I've been having a bit of a reading slump, because I know this sounds ridiculous like in hindsight, but last week I read Heated Rivalry and The Long Game and it absolutely destroyed me emotionally. And part of that is because I identify so heavily with Ilya, the character of Ilya, because of his depression and the way that he self-sabotaged. But then we moved into this one, which was just a sort of like retelling of the Odyssey, but what happens to Penelope and if Penelope would have a sapphic relationship. And so I knew very little about Penelope aside from the fact that she's Odysseus's wife. And so I really ended up enjoying this retelling of her life being left behind in Ithaca with her handmaiden named Melantho, especially it being told from Melantho's point of view. And because it was told through Melantho's point of view, the novel becomes incredibly difficult to read because Melantho is a slave. And I liked that the novel didn't shy away from the harder aspects of being a slave and the difficulties that would make Melantho a very strong character, but would obviously affect her life in tragic ways. But sometimes I really just have to stop reading and like stare into space to really think about what I was reading, just to like simply get a breather from it, because a lot of it was really, really, really difficult. The blossoming relationship between Penelope and Melantho was an incredibly long, slow burn. I mean, this novel is really long, and I think they only really get together around the 50 to 60% mark. And I do wish that Hewlett developed it a bit earlier on in the novel, but that's primarily for selfish reasons, because I actually do, if I think about it, find that the slow burn really added to the tragedy and yearning that Melantho and Penelope experienced, which I always really appreciate, and it always really makes me like, I need more, I need to read this more, I need to read this faster. So this novel was a really interesting experience, because on one hand I had this like slow yearning that I absolutely crave, and on the other hand I had this like tragic tale of like women in Greek society, and also comparatively their dynamics, as one being a queen of an island left behind by a king and the other being like a slave woman in this society. It all was very, very interesting. I gave it 4 stars. As I mentioned several times, this was recommended to me by my friend Ness. So thank you, Ness, for recommending this, because I really, really enjoyed it. And it was a 2026 release that I hadn't heard of until it was recommended to me. So kudos. The next 2026 release that I have been reading is the first pre-order that I got this year, which was Half His Age by Jeanette McCurdy. Jeanette McCurdy is Sam on iCarly. She really took the world by storm with her memoir that she released. It's within the last few years, and I read it right away. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. I didn't enjoy it obviously for its content, because she is speaking on the death of her mother and how she sort of felt relieved by the death of her mother, because she was emotionally and physically abused by her mother for a very long time. But this is her first dive into fiction, and given the title and the very provocative cover, you can essentially guess what this novel is about. It follows a teen girl named Waldo, who in her senior year of high school has this creative writing class, and the creative writing class's professor, Mr. Corgi, what, these people in this book have such silly names, enthralls Waldo with his like nonchalanty type of attitude, and obviously he's a creative man, and Waldo pursues this relationship with this old man, and she is essentially half his age. Well, he's not an old man, because I'm probably around his age, which I guess is adding to it, because he feels like such an old man, obviously, because we're in the perspective of a 17-year-old, but he's my age, and it's like, it's weird. It's weird to pursue a relationship with a 17-year-old. It's interesting in a sense, because Jeanette McCurdy's writing style is very similar to her memoir. It's very flat, it's very monotone, it's very straight to the point and deliberate, with this being a relationship that is wrong and should be explored on a more like higher level. I feel it's being explored by a 17-year-old who is believing that they are the one pursuing this teacher, and believing that they are the cause of this relationship and that they deserve this relationship, and it's because they are mature that they are getting this relationship. And in reality, when you're reading this, you're like, I know that it's not that, and I know that this man is taking advantage of the 17-year-old girl. But with Jeanette McCurdy's writing style, it's like she is sort of believing that she is the cause of this. There's no real discussion on it. There's no reflection on it, because she is just a 17-year-old girl who wants to do what she believes she deserves. And so I'm really conflicted on it, because there isn't this like retrospective discussion on it. It's reminding me a lot of Lolita, and how the main character is presenting this relationship in a way that makes sense to them. And therefore, as the reader, you're reading this type of dynamic and you're like, all of this is wrong. And I think it's working, because I am of the age of the person who is taking advantage of the 17-year-old girl. I know that the little things that he's doing are on purpose, but she doesn't realize that the little things that he did were to make her interested, right? Like, he didn't have to invite her over for dinner at his house. He didn't have to do all these things, but he does. He is very obviously taking advantage of her. So it's an interesting read. I'm not too sure how I feel about it yet. I'm halfway through, so I definitely expect to finish it today. The relationship is being pursued in the novel. That's where we are currently right now. And you could definitely see that he's taking advantage of her, and that she's like doing whatever he wants, obviously, because she's a very impressionable young girl. And so I'm interested to see where this novel goes, what type of message or theme Jeanette McCurdy is laying down with the book. And I'm very interested to read some reviews afterwards, because I would like to know what people think about this book. And I have a feeling it's incredibly divisive, because the review for this is 3.26, which in my opinion is a pretty divisive rating. So I'm going to continue listening to this. I am currently working. I don't have like really brain needed tasks to do today. They're all very like, I can just turn my brain off, listen to this book, and do the work. So that's what I will be doing. And I will get back to you probably when I'm done this book. Hello, it is the nighttime, so I do have to whisper a little bit. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to try to talk at like a normal volume just because my son is sleeping. So I really don't want to risk waking him up because sometimes just me talking wakes him up if I'm too close to his room. But I did want to do this update now and not tomorrow because tomorrow I have to go into the office. It's one of my in-office days and I want to avoid bringing as many things as possible. I don't mind filming at the office, but I don't want like people asking me like what I'm doing when I'm just trying to update because I'm listening to an audiobook while I'm working, you know? I do want to talk about the fact that I finished Half His Age by Jeanette McCurdy. I did in fact read this all in one day. We can give that a point for it, that it is extremely fast paced, but this is exactly a novel that is the very definition of a 3-star for me. I clearly feel so in the middle of it because I can barely like formulate coherent thoughts. On the one hand, I appreciate this story for what it is. McCurdy is obviously writing this very cathartically. McCurdy's writing in here is very similar to her memoir. It feels very flat. It feels very monotone. It is intentional, even when tackling difficult subjects, which this novel is not a stranger to, obviously. The second half of the novel, we definitely developed more in the relationship between Waldo and her teacher, Mr. Corgi, and how Mr. Corgi keeps her in his life and how she's essentially doing the same. The short sentences in here make the reading experience feel quick, which kept me intrigued, but I was also really grateful for because there were a lot of scenes in here that were I just wanted to like stop reading and I didn't want to stay in the story for very long. Part of that or most of that is because the story is meant to make the readers feel uncomfortable. And the book did exactly that given the plot, given the graphic scenes in here. Unfortunately, though, when I feel bad saying this, because as I mentioned, I do think this is a cathartic writing experience for McCurdy, I don't feel like the novel was doing anything more than just shocking readers. Sure, it's not celebrating this relationship between an adult man and a teenager, of course, but it's not doing exactly much to comment on it either. It's just sort of laying it there. As a reader, I guess you're putting your own ideas and perspectives into it, but I feel like as an author, there should be some underlying idea behind it, and I don't really feel like there was anything there. Even if the idea is that there is nothing, I just feel like there should have been maybe slightly more commentary. I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting, but it definitely wasn't this. This was more of a shock factor than like a exciting read, I guess. So I'm settling on a 3 stars because like I said, I do appreciate it for what it is. I just wish it did more. And then I'm going to move into the final book for this vlog and I'm expecting to read a majority of it tomorrow if I have time. Here's the thing. I go in with the intention of reading it while I'm at work, listening to it while I do menial tasks, and then I'm just always getting up, helping people, talking to people, networking, if you will. And I just like being at work to talk to my coworkers and stuff. So sometimes I don't exactly read when I'm there, which is fine. But I did want to start The Ending Writes Itself by Evelyn Clark tonight. So Evelyn Clark is a writing duo between V.E. Schwab, who is one of my favorite authors, and Kat Clark, who I have never ever read before. She seems to be an author of YA novels and a publisher that I've never read from before. The duo wanted to write a murder mystery together. So basically this follows 6 authors who wind up on this private island. They are there to write the ending of an unfinished novel of this author named Arthur Fletch. Arthur Fletch, yes. His agent and editor have summoned these writers in the hope that one of them will imagine a worthy ending for his final book. To sweeten the deal, they are offering an irresistible prize. In addition to ghostwriting the last chapter, they will also help the lucky writer successfully relaunch their own career, guaranteeing future bestsellers. The catch, the writers have just 72 hours to finish Fletch's magnum opus, and I'm assuming they will be getting picked off one by one and they will be dying. That's my assumption. So I'm excited to read this, but I'm very nervous. Like I said, V.E. Schwab is one of my favorite authors. She hasn't written a like mystery thriller point finale without any fantasy, nothing going on here, I think. So I'm a little nervous to read this. It hasn't had the best reviews, but I tend to like when V.E. Schwab is doing like something weird and different. And so I'm hoping that I do enjoy this, but we'll see because I'm not a thriller reader. So actually that might vie for positive because maybe I'll be shocked by things that other people don't find shocking. Let's hope. Hello. So it is the next day at night, and I am 1/3 of the way through The Ending Writes Itself. Did I read it at all today? No. I read it all now in the last hour or so. And so far, let me hold the book up. And so far, what's happened in the book is exactly what's happened in the synopsis. So these 6 authors are brought to this house and they are told that Arthur Fletcher has died, and he has died without completing the last 100 pages or whatever, the ending of the final book of his well-loved series. And so all of these authors are like, oh my god, that's crazy. Like, he's popular to the point that these different authors in different genres would know who he is, and they're all there to try and write the ending. So the publisher and the editor want one of these authors essentially to finish this series, and if they do so, they will win $2 million, and also their books will be pushed more by the publisher. So this is really amazing for these authors because they have all been labeled like mid-tier authors, which means they do well enough. They have a fan base, but they're not New York Times bestsellers, which is where the majority of them want to be. So that's pretty much it. There is a spooky aspect to it so far. They are receiving letters that say like "Get out." Two of the authors in here thought that they saw the ghost of Arthur Fletcher. So there is some sort of like paranormal, maybe not mystery going on here. No one has died so far, which is what I expected to happen. So I'm actually surprised that at least 100 or so pages in, it hasn't happened yet. But I'm excited to solve the mystery. I've seen some poor reviews online. People are saying that this is predictable or boring. Call me silly, but I have not predicted anything yet. I don't even know where this is going. I don't know if someone is dying. I don't know if the mystery is if Arthur Fletcher has died or not. Really have no idea, but I'm having a fun time. What I'm really liking is that, so far at least, the parts of the book are being separated into like literary devices. So the first part of the book is following them as like archetypes. So it's like the thriller writers, the newbie, the horror writer, and giving them each like a personality type. And now we got into the next section, part 2, which is called like main character syndrome, and it seems to be following them for a couple of chapters, each main character as a person rather than like the character trope that they are. So I think the play on like literary techniques is interesting. I'm excited to see how it continues. I think for maybe another hour I'm going to continue listening to this, and then I want to move into like some nonfiction. I like to listen to nonfiction before bed because it quite frankly puts me to sleep. But that's it. I put my son to sleep. My partner is at his hockey game. So really, it's just me and the books, baby. Hello. So I wanted to do a quick update just because my son is sleeping. I really, really want to finish this tonight. But today at work, I did get another third into the ending writes itself, and honestly I'm having a great time. There has been a death in the book, and I believe it was a murder. It's part of a murderous plot. What we did learn in this second third is not necessarily about the murder, but that there is some sort of nefarious, at least lying, that's been going on surrounding Arthur Fletcher's death. So I won't go into spoilers because I actually found that to be a really interesting twist. It's not necessarily a twist that you would expect to happen in this type of book, but definitely an interesting one nonetheless. And it certainly made me more intrigued to continue, especially because the events of this reveal occurred around the time that there was a murder. I'm a little sad by the murder in the book without talking about who was murdered so far, because it was one of my favorite characters, and so it feels a little like, oh, I wish she wasn't the one that died. Not that, I want to wish ill will on anyone or any of these characters unless they're severely terrible, which they're not. So it's unfortunate that one of my more favorite characters has passed, and now we're moving into the last third where I think many more reveals will be made. I feel like I have an idea of what could possibly happen. So if it does happen, I'll be a little disappointed because, as I mentioned in the first clip, I am not a usual thriller slash mystery reader. So I don't know like typical tropes and stuff like that. So a lot of these books tend to like shock me or like at least be interesting because I'm like, oh wow, I didn't expect that because I don't know anything. And so if I do figure it out, I think that could be a little bit disappointing. I am still enjoying it. I am still having a really fun time. I don't expect anything less with the ending. I do want to finish it tonight if I can, at the latest tomorrow, because I do want to record my intro and outro tomorrow before I run some errands with my friends, because I won't have time at all this weekend, and I've been pretty delayed on a lot of my videos, so I would like to at least get this one out over the weekend, Monday at the latest. And then next week I think I'm going to take a break from vlogs and I'm going to film a sit down video and then move back into like some easier vlogs. But definitely the heated rivalry like game changers vlog definitely fucked me up because it was 6 books, and I don't know who I was kidding thinking I could read 6 books in a week. I can't do that anymore. Used to be able, I can't anymore. So I think that fucked me up a bit timeline wise, but it's okay. I just shifted some things around, so we should still be good. But that means I definitely have to crack down and finish this tonight. I just recorded all of this and I didn't press play. Anyways, let's get into my final thoughts on The Ending Writes Itself by Evelyn Clark, which I think I was giving pretty high praise to in the last 2 clips. I was like, yo, I don't understand why people hate this book. I sort of get it now. I think the latter third completely fumbled, but let's get into my final thoughts. As mentioned, I had a lot of fun listening to this. I found it to be really quick paced, so I was never bored, never wanting to put it down. I didn't talk about this in my updates, but there was a lot of discussions here about like the publishing industry and these authors' feelings towards the publishing industry, and how ultimately when you're an author, you have this passion and joy for writing that you sort of lose because, like the rest of us, you're bogged down by capitalism. So obviously any discussion on capitalism I will enjoy. That being said, however, I think the overall mystery of the novel was just okay, which is so disappointing because I feel like the buildup in the first 2/3 was so good. I've seen like some people found these introductory chapters and the development of these characters to be boring, but like I could not disagree more. I was shocked at certain reveals and I predicted certain reveals, and that was okay for me. Like there are some mysteries where you're going to predict some things, but I was so annoyed by the ending. I found the pacing there completely fumbled. It suddenly turned into like a thriller, and the ultimate killer I think was sort of a lame reveal because in the end it's the most obvious choice, but I feel like making it a red herring would have been more interesting than ultimately making that the killer. It felt so obvious at the same time that it felt like it came out of nowhere. You know what I mean? And without getting into spoilers, there is a part of the ending that has to do with like the current technological timeline that we're in, and I feel like that could have been really, really cool and really, really well done if it was developed. But it's sort of a throwaway paragraph in the last like 50, not even 20 pages. And so it just was lost on me, I feel like, and it could have been a really cool discussion. So in the end, this was fun. I had a great time. But do I think this was the perfect mystery thriller? No, it was okay. I gave it a 3.5 stars. So with that said, let's summarize my overall thoughts for these 2026 releases. And surprisingly, the release that I wasn't even anticipating at the beginning of the year, that I didn't even have pre-ordered originally, was Sweet Bitter Song by Rosie Hewlett, which I gave a 4 stars. Thank you to Ness for recommending this because I enjoyed it the most. After that, I read Half His Age by Jeanette McCurdy, which I gave a 3 stars to. Was interesting, but ultimately made me too uncomfortable to enjoy. And then finally, The Ending Writes Itself by Evelyn Clark, which I gave a 3.5 stars to. Fun, but not perfect. So that is it for this video. Please let me know down below if you've read any of these. Did you like them? Did you hate them? Did you enjoy them just the same? Let me know. And if you would like to follow me on any of my other social medias, I do leave a link down below to my Twitter, Goodreads, and Instagram if you would like to follow me there, given that they're there, given the state of the world. If they still exist, they are down below. And of course, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. It does wonders for my channel, makes me feel really good. And that's it. I never know how to end these things, so I will see you next time. Okay, bye!